Let's now bring in Nape Senong. He's a mobiliser strategist at Youth Capital. Nape, a very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for your time. So as the country marks 70 years since the adoption of the Freedom Charter, I want us to look at one of the Charter's clauses. The people shall share in the country's wealth. I mean, 30 years post-democracy. Where do you think we are now in as far as this is concerned?
Thank you for having us and also shining a light on some of the issues that the young people are battling with. So as Youth Capital, as a campaign that advocates for policy change to solve youth unemployment, we think that a little bit more can be done in terms of transforming the economy to become more inclusive, to work for a lot of people in the country, which a majority of the population is young. So we think that really there has to be more that's being done. With the story that was just coming up, we can see that there's still these sort of like spatial dynamics that are there. There's still this patterns of opportunity that are there. People in rural areas in what we call economic deserts really have to fend for themselves because the story is both inspiring, but also it shines light on the systemic issues that are there, that there are people in rural areas and townships where there's really not much industry, but they really have to fend for themselves. And the story is both, it shines light, but it's also inspiring that there is opportunities in these spaces, in the spaces that we usually call economic deserts. With the right policies in place, there is opportunities for us to really create employment and create opportunities in spaces that we usually do not associate with opportunity.
I mean, when you consider the record high numbers of youth unemployment in this country, I mean, South Africa also being one of the most unequal countries in the world, you speak about these, opportunities. What industries do you think are there that have high number of, opportunities for young people, especially that remains untapped?
So, for example, there's been a lot of conversations around the informal economy. We think that is good, although it's not going to be a silver bullet, right? It's not going to solve youth unemployment or unemployment in general. But there is opportunities there, and I'm glad that we are glad that the conversation is being had. But the president talks a lot about big infrastructure investment, but also at the same time, there's a lot of opportunities in the care economy, in economies that give back to the community. Our communities are dirty. How about we get young people, even if we pay them a stipend, not a full wage? How about we get young people to pick up, trash but also while at the same time, there has to be really those big policy shifts that happen. But every crisis, as they say, presents an opportunity. So at Youth Capital, we really do think that sectors like the informal economy, they're really much untapped, and there's a lot of conversation that can be had around there. But also you think of the care economy, there's also quite a lot of conversations that are not being had around the care economy, for example. So there's with unemployment in South Africa, it's so complex that there's a lot of moving pieces, but there is some of what usually people say low-hanging fruits. You solve unemployment, but you also help the community. So you look at some of the public employment programs, such as the teacher assistance / the BEI, Basic Education Employment Initiative. Those kind of initiatives, we know our schools, under austerity, they don't have enough capacity, but also we know that if we get the young people in these spaces, they can help the school, put some money in their pockets, stimulate local economies, and also just gain work experience to move on into more meaningful permanent work later on. So in our crisis, there is some opportunities that at Youth Capital, we think that we can really tap into.
And I want to speak a little bit about Youth Capital. Do you work directly with the youth? Just speak to us about what are some of the concerning challenges that you have within that that stable where you are working with communities, particularly as you start talking about informal sectors?
So at Youth Capital, we work with young people so that they inform our advocacy, but a lot of our work is around advocacy and trying to shift policies because we think that youth unemployment or unemployment in general in the country, it's a systemic, it's a structural issue. It really needs shifts in the policy space, but we believe that the young people's voices are important to shaping the type of solutions that they need to solve their problems. And some of the things that are on the second part of your question, some of the things that are really coming up with young people is that, like, it's very expensive to look for work, for example. As you from the previous story, if you are in a village, there's not a lot of opportunities. So you always have to travel to where there's opportunities. And a study that was done in 2020 by Youth Capital with partners, we found out that the average cost of looking for work for young people is around 1,000. The majority of that money is spent on transport, and the following is data. So young people feel disconnected by being in spaces that are very far away from opportunities. And the other thing we see is a very big psychosocial factor. Me and you know that, like, when you're out of work, you sometimes feel useless. You don't feel like you can participate, not just in the economy, but you feel like you cannot participate socially, you cannot participate culturally. Maybe you sometimes want to watch a nice show, and you cannot go there. Or sometimes you want to connect with friends, they're having a picnic and you can't chip in. And it's from those basics all the way to, like, young people are dealing with a lot. So at Youth Capital, we believe that young people cannot be resilient anymore, and we need urgent systemic kind of interventions to solve the crisis.
All right, Napo, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Nape Senong is a mobiliser strategist at Youth Capital, of course, as we reflect on the 70th anniversary of the drafting of the Freedom Charter.